Government announces more measures to tackle crime. New training and job opportunities coming in healthcare. And in sports, the Barbados Special Olympics team back from Abu Dhabi.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC News Night, starting now.
Good evening, I'm Lisa Broom with the CBC News Night. In our top story tonight, Barbados stands to benefit significantly from the establishment of a 24-hour living facility for the elderly. This suggestion from Prime Minister Mia Motley as she addressed the groundbreaking of a new adult wellness community in St. George. Sharika Griffith has that story.
Barbados is becoming more attractive for its health care. Prime Minister Mia Motley says for some older Barbadians living abroad, it's more economic to return home than pay the kinds of prices being asked in North America and Europe.
Is perhaps one of the most critical needs that the Caribbean diaspora has expressed to me as I move around in North America and Europe. They cannot afford the costs of health care in those jurisdictions, but equally, they may not have family here for their elderly parents or aunts or uncles to live with. And hence that 24/7 support system is one that may be a much more valuable proposition to them than you might otherwise think.
Prime Minister Motley was speaking during the launch of the Sagicor Estates at St. George. The 328-unit facility will offer baby boomers resort-style amenities and continuing care. Sagicor Group Chairman Stephen McNamara says in addition to jobs in construction, when completed, the facility will require trained medical specialists and caregivers.
In an effort to cultivate our practitioners from right here in Barbados and the region, we aim to explore a partnership that will see us at Sagicor and managers of the facility Origin Inc. of Canada, partnering with the Barbados Community College to upgrade their existing training curricula to generate a stream of trained caregivers. While some of these graduates will be absorbed into the adult care services segment of the Barbados services sector, some of them will have the opportunity to be employed at the estates at St. George.
Chief Operations Officer Ravi Rambaran says if successful, the estates model could be replicated in neighbouring Caribbean countries. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
Thanks, Sharika. And we're also hearing tonight that major changes are coming to Barbados's Bail Act. Attorney General Dale Marshall says there are too many cases where people on bail for serious offences like murder are engaging in similar crimes. He made the comment against the background of the brazen shooting at Sheraton Centre and other recent gun crimes.
I am not going to castigate any judges. Judges are judges, and they have the right to the independence of the judiciary. I certainly can't tell them what to do. But I'm not going to sit as Attorney General and allow this situation to persist. No. And I can tell you, sir, that I will be bringing to this chamber very shortly significant amendments to the Bail Act. And I hope, sir, that all of the people who are crying and railing now, that when the police are doing their job and when the courts start to get tough on this situation, that they don't start saying, oh Lord, I get unfair.
Retailers and vendors have been given 3 more months to get rid of their petrol-based plastic products. Minister of Maritime Affairs and the Blue Economy, Kirk Humphrey, made the announcement during the debate on the financial statement and budgetary proposals in Parliament. He says the April 1st deadline had initially been set based on advice from vendors, but sales of the soon-to-be outlawed items had slowed down in the months since the ban was announced.
Now many vendors are telling us, Mr. Speaker, sir, that April 1st, 2019 is too soon for them. And like we made adjustments for the people who have the fresh skill in the chicken industry and for the people who manufacture plastic bags, we are making an adjustment to accommodate the vendors who find themselves in many cases stuck with a lot of styrofoam. And tonight I wish to announce, Mr. Speaker, sir, that we will be banning single-use plastics on April 1st for importation but that we would allow the use of single-use plastics in Barbados for an additional 3 more months until July 1st, because we have heard the people, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Minister Humphrey says, however, no further extensions will be granted after July 1st. Labour Minister Colin Jordan has admitted that government made some missteps with the retrenchment program. He was speaking at the opening of the National Union of Public Workers annual General Conference recently. He says people leaving employment without the money owed to them is one of those mistakes. The St. Peter MP also reminded leaders in both the public and private sectors that workers need to be treated like human beings.
And so the taking of lists and sending it by WhatsApp to all kinds of people and all over the place only serves to make people nervous, uncomfortable, and you start to wonder what is happening. Those kinds of things affect human beings, workers, in a significant way. And I would want to encourage leaders in all sectors and leaders at all levels to treat workers with respect and treat workers as the human beings that they are.
Well, Mr. Jordan is concerned about what he says seems to be a growing practice of private sector layoffs following those in the public sector. But he says this goes against the spirit of the social contract.
And I would want to suggest to the private sector that with corporation taxes reduced, we expect that you would understand that there is a certain responsibility that government expects of you, and so we would want you to intensify your understanding that the process that we are engaged in is going to be a shared process if it is going to be a successful process.
Meanwhile, President of the National Union of Public Workers, Akani McDowell, has noted that retrenchment of workers is not the ideal choice for the union. But he's told government where it has to be done, best practices should obtain. Mr. McDowell says regardless of the reason, the rights of workers should also be protected.
National Union of Public Workers insists and will continue to insist that retrenchment, where necessary, must be done in the interest of workers paramount, their rights intact and dignity untouched. Transparent selection processes, such as last in, first out, or the provision of options for workers must be used. Workers must have access to their money and dues on the final day of employment. I believe that the government should invest in personal and financial counseling services to make them available to retrenched workers.
A local economist does not believe the increase in bus fares will solve the problem of unprofitability at the Transport Board. Head of the Department of Economics at the University of the West Indies Cave Hill campus, Professor Winston Moore, says a study has shown that in order to be sustainable, a single trip should cost at least $5. He says the increase to $3.50 will still result in a shortfall, and perhaps government should have looked at people paying according to the distances they travel.
Each passenger on the Transport Board bus is still leading to a loss for the company. So the government is essentially still subsidizing each passenger. What I think we need to do is look a bit more innovative in terms of how we price transportation. There's no reason why there should be one bus fare. So if I'm going on a shorter route, the rate should be a little bit lower. If I'm going on a longer route, the rate should be a little bit higher. Now, how do you protect the more vulnerable members of society? You protect the more vulnerable members of society by giving them transfers.
Well, CARICOM is being warned to be wary of outside interests who may seek to undermine the grouping. It's coming from Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves. He made the comments against the backdrop of Friday's meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and the leaders of Jamaica, Bahamas, Haiti and St. Lucia. Well, Dr. Gonsalves says although there may be ideological differences among member states, as far as it is practical, the membership should coordinate its foreign policy.
We in CARICOM have to be very alive to the mischief that some persons may be up to seek to divide us in a manner which we ought not to be divided, and therefore reduce the extent of the efficacy of our work. In any case, we owe our friends in Mexico and Uruguay the obligation to work with them because we have established a mechanism with them.
Dr. Gonzalez says the CARICOM leaders who met with President Trump can only speak for themselves and not for the CARICOM grouping, as none of the official committee members were involved in that meeting.
Any discussion of Venezuela in that context, as at Mar-a-Lago, that it cuts across the agreed mechanisms that we have put in place. It doesn't mean that those countries don't have the right as sovereign states to have conversations with whomever they want.